From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Our connection this hour was made on a busy road where crossing on foot might feel like a dangerous video game and riding a bicycle might feel unwise. Can you think of such a road near where you live or somewhere where you travel often? When people talk about why they do or do not use a bicycle to get around, they often talk about safety, and connected to safety is infrastructure and planning. So let's turn our attention to Henrietta, which has many busy roadways surrounding retail alleys, and my colleague Jeremy Moule recently reported on some change there. He reported that, for example, Henrietta resident Karen Lancashoffer describes parts of her town as little subdivisions divided by arterials. And so Karen approached Henrietta officials about creating low-stress bike boulevards. This year, the town established its first two. Karen is a longtime cycling and pedestrian advocate in the town and an avid bicyclist, and she is glad to see the changes. Are they enough? A bicycle boulevard is an alternate route that parallels very busy roads with heavy traffic and is meant to be comfortable for most cyclists to use. They often require little in the way of investment, Jeremy reports. A local government can make a bike boulevard simply by placing signs directing cyclists along the route. But if you read the comments from avid cyclists on social media, there's still some debate about just how much needs to be done to protect cyclists. So we're going to talk about that. Bike safety. We'll talk about what's going on in Henrietta and beyond with our guest this hour, Jeremy Moule, deputy editor for WXXI News and an avid cyclist, yes?
At times in my life, yes.
Avid-ish?
Yeah, I need to get back on the bike. But I've done a lot of cycling throughout my life.
It's good to have Jeremy here. Next to Jeremy is Millie Sefranek, a member of the Henrietta Town Board. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Across the table is Jesse Piers, who is the cycling manager of Reconnect Rochester and a certified avid cyclist.
Yeah, that's me.
Not avid-ish. And on the line with us, so let me welcome Christine Merrill, who is a bicycle safety advocate. Christine, welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much.
Jeremy, how did you first hear about this?
Actually, Millie emailed us about it, so this is a pretty easy one.
Okay, and you've reported on a number of sort of public infrastructure projects. I don't know how often you're on a bicycle these days, but you strike me as someone pretty in the know about what's happening here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I live in the city, and I've watched as the city went from having no bicycle infrastructure so many years ago, I forget if it's like 10, 15, 20, to slowly building up its network. So I've watched things like cycle tracks go in and bike lanes and sharrows and all the other interestingly named things that go along with it.
Okay, and when it comes to a bicycle boulevard, as you note in your story, and we've talked to Eric Frisch and others in the city of Rochester about this, Rochester has been doing this for a number of years, but people hear bicycle boulevard. You want to give a definition here?
Sure. And I think these are actually like a smart, simple solution for a lot of tough routes. What a bike boulevard does is it's an identified route through some neighborhood streets, the ones that are going to be less stressful than, your busy ones, the arterials, they often call them. In Henrietta, that would be like your Jefferson Road, your East Henrietta Road, your West Henrietta Road. Places where even if you bike a lot, you probably don't want to be on those roads. They don't feel particularly safe. They're very busy. So it's an alternate route. And the city has on occasion done some traffic calming on some of these routes, but mostly they just need to be marked so that people can find them.
Okay. And Millie, what happens that led to this change here that we're going to be talking about? Take me through some of the events.
Well, Karen says that it started 10 years ago with her first approaching the town and advocating for an active transportation plan and for the establishment of these bike boulevards. If anyone has met or known Karen, you know that she is a very patient and persistent person, and she continued to come before the town advocating for these changes and organizing a group of local bike advocates to look for ways to make Henrietta safer. Henrietta sees this as something that is practical and incremental. I think it's a good start to our plan.
I worked in Henrietta for 11 years before coming to WXXI, and I got myself in a little trouble on this program over the years when I would, good-naturedly riff on the fact that I thought it was illegal to ride a bicycle in Henrietta, or that you could get arrested if you even had passengers in your car. I thought Henrietta was really committed to only car traffic and the most car traffic possible. That was a set of jokes that I should not have told because I offended some people who live in Henrietta. They told me that. I went out there. I spent some time with more residents there. It's not just the arterials. Henrietta has a lot more than just sort of the retail alleys. So Millie, I don't want to offend. Having worked there, I have affinity for Henrietta. So let me try it this way. Is it fair to say that there are sections of Henrietta that historically, maybe you could understand why people would be nervous about being on foot or on bicycle?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the Jefferson roads and the East Henrietta and the West Henrietta, they're anxiety producing.
It's not illegal to walk there though, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
You can ride a bicycle too.
There's sidewalks in many places.
Okay. So your concern is safety. You're hearing from people like Karen. You're hearing from advocates here. Are you satisfied with where we are, or where you want to go in Henrietta with this?
This is a start. I think back. For me, it started a number of years ago when we had a really tragic accident, and a young man was riding home from a local park, and was struck on West Henrietta Road. Mm-hmm. And to me, that says that we need ways for all young people to be able to get to their destinations from their neighborhoods, to their schools, to their parks, to their playgrounds safely. Parents shouldn't have to worry that their child is unsafe riding their bicycle.
Christine Merrill is a bicycle safety advocate, and I want to bring in Christine for a little perspective on how you became a bicycle safety advocate and your perspective here. So Christine, the floor is yours. Tell us a little bit about that. Okay.
Do that question one more time.
Yeah, just a little bit of your own background on how you became a bicycle safety advocate in the first place, and what your goals here are.
That is a fun story. My family moved here about 3 years ago, and I know nobody really likes the new people who come in and say, I love my community, now change everything about it. That's not what we intended to do. My husband got a job at RIT. He's biked to work his whole life, and Henrietta is really beautiful and flat, which makes for really pleasant biking, and we were really excited. But his first day riding to work, it was kind of scary. He drives down Lehigh Station Road, and it has a nice shoulder, but people drive really, really fast. And my kids started biking to school as well. And I knew within a couple of months that if we just kept biking and didn't do anything, one of my kids was going to get hit and was going to get hurt, or my husband. And I said, you know what? Somebody's got to ask for some changes. And I don't really enjoy advocacy, actually. I find that it kind of gives me ulcers because I get really worried about what people think of me. But I just felt like some really small changes could make things a lot better for my family. And so I started saying, hey, could we do anything? And what I found out was that in Henrietta, a lot of the roads are not really controlled by the town. We have most of our arteries are state roads and county roads. And I think that's a lot of why it's a tough town to bike in, because the town can't say, let's put a crosswalk here. That makes a lot of sense. They have to work with a lot of other agencies, and those agencies are really focused on moving the cars through and not really focused on the quality of life of the people who live there. And so that's been a tough thing. But the bike boulevards have been something my kids have really gotten into as they've biked to school. They enjoy being able to bike to the library. And this has been a really fun project for them. They have really felt like the town is caring about them a lot. And so it's been really fun to be involved with.
Can I ask, Christine, where did you move from?
We moved from Prince George's County, Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C., and that was a biking nightmare. So moving to Henrietta felt like so much freedom. I have 6 kids. My oldest is in college. I have a couple of recently graduated or about to graduate young adults, and then I've got 3 younger kids. And so you can imagine that in a family with 6 kids and 2 cars, that not everybody can drive everywhere they want to all the time, including me, including my husband. We all have to really share the cars, and biking has really opened up a lot of opportunity for work, for extracurricular activities, for social life and friendship, for service. It's been a really great thing about living in this area.
I have to say, I mean, I'll let Millie weigh in on this, but you don't strike me as just a rabble rouser who's moving in and calling for change. You strike me as someone who sees a logical issue that doesn't just affect your kids or your husband or your family, but a lot of people. I mean, Millie, what did you make of the I'm going to use the word advocacy, whether Christine wants it or not. What did you make of that?
Well, I'm really excited because to me, I want to hear from the young people in particular. And Christine's kids came out and rode on our very first Bike Boulevard ride. And afterwards, they came up to me and they said they had a great idea for another Bike Boulevard. And yesterday, they met with our engineering department and mapped out a new route. So hopefully within the next year, we'll be able to implement another Bike Boulevard, which will connect to our local Tinker Park, the library, and to the high school.
Christine, how would you rate the responsiveness of your local government on this issue?
I feel like the local government has been really great. I feel like we have a lot of people who really are interested in improving this. There's budget problems and there's interagency problems, and it's a tough thing. The first thing I heard was, I would love to help with that. We've been working on things. I don't know if it's possible. When we talk about getting a crosswalk or getting a sidewalk, or the Calkins Road is being redeveloped, and we've been working on trying to make that redevelopment process really bike friendly. There's just a lot of people involved in the process, and the local government is really involved, but it's a lot of the state and county agencies that really are pretty focused on car needs right now more than the other. And so I think, I'm sure all of the suburbs and probably even in the city too are experiencing a lot of the same things where you just don't have control over the things you want. But I'm really appreciative of our town really working on it.
Yeah, Jeremy Moule, the point is an interesting one about, well, just put a crosswalk or just do a bike boulevard when there's different jurisdictions in play here, right?
Yeah. As you mentioned, there's local roads that, the town would control. These are your residential streets. That's why bike boulevards often make so much sense. They're a lot easier to pull off. Then you have the state roads that are controlled by the state, and they get federal funding for some of these projects. And I think this is what gets kind of left out of the discussion sometimes, is these rigid standards that prevent things like crosswalks and bike lanes sometimes originate with federal road standards.
So when it comes to bike boulevards here, I want Jesse Pierce to kind of take us through, because I don't know if there's anybody more experienced on a bicycle in this town than Jesse Pierce. How do they rank as a solution?
They are supposed to complement arterial infrastructure like bike lanes and cycle tracks. Bike boulevards are not meant to be the all in all of bicycling, but they're supposed to complement other investments. So most people are relatively comfortable biking along residential streets anyway. You go into any neighborhood in Monroe County, there's going to be kids biking and scooting. So that's great news that most people are already comfortable on those streets. And it's more about wayfinding and awareness. And, you can actually use this residential parallel route to Main Street to get to this park or that library. And if you can traffic calm those even further than they're already pretty slow motorist speeds anyway, then that's great. But it's more about raising awareness and, again, it's supposed to be a complement to what's already being done on streets. But as we've already talked about, a lot of municipalities don't have the ultimate say-so what happens on Titus or Ridge Road or Lake Avenue. But this is something that municipalities can do directly and relatively quickly and cheaply.
So let me also ask you about the differentiation that some have made about bicycle boulevards versus other sort of infrastructure that might help. And On Blue Sky, Bike Everywhere is a local account. There's an avid cyclist who sends me a note with pictures of from Monroe Avenue and says, Monroe Avenue, pictured here, is a bike boulevard. Unfortunately, bike boulevards are the stuff of car dominance apologists. No good for family or social riding. Barely acceptable for riders like myself who are willing to take their lives in their hands every time they get on a bike. We need real separated bike lane infrastructure like yesterday. So let's start with that. Jesse, what do you think?
Sure, I would say that we do need dedicated, safe, all ages and abilities infrastructure on arterials. And the thing about bike boulevards is they typically will have you cross major primary busy roads, but for the most part, when you get around the bike boulevard network, you won't have to bike on those busy roads, just across them. And, you know, it's very important for when those crossings happen that you have traffic lights and signals. And that's something that Rochester in its active transportation plan has in mind for phase 3 of its bike boulevard network is additional traffic signals and buttons and detectors when a cyclist comes up to an intersection. They really shouldn't have to dismount and go over and press a beg button. Ideally, the camera there would detect their presence anyway. But yeah, they're supposed to complement one another. But, you know, on our Wednesday rides with the city's recreation department, over the course of the summer, we have 20 different rides, and we ride along every bike boulevard in Rochester, both the ones that exist and the ones that will exist, just trying to drive up familiarity and anticipation with those routes. And I remember back here in May 2022, I did a ride with David Strever and Megan Mack, and we went all over Rochester on bike boulevards, and it was pretty easy and low stress the whole time.
I do think some listeners who are not avid bicyclists, who are maybe thinking about bicycling more, would hear bicycle boulevard and assume it is separated infrastructure, that there's some sort of physical barrier that separates the bicyclist. And that is not the case.
It's not the case. I mean, there's world-famous bicycle urban planners such as Michael Colville Anderson, who is the founder of Copenhagenize, and he wrote a great book about, you know, European bike infrastructure called Copenhagenize. But one of his key points in that great book, which I recommend reading, is that when motorist speeds are about 20 to 25 miles an hour, a conventional bike lane and kind of coexisting side by side is doable for many, many people. Once motorist speeds reach 30 miles an hour and beyond, that's when you really need that clear separation physically between bike traffic and motor vehicle traffic.
Okay, and but you don't think that bicycle boulevards are for sort of auto apologists?
I'll repeat this story that back in 2021, the city of Rochester was expanding its bike boulevard program with phase 2. And they put up some speed bumps on Garson Avenue through Beechwood and North Winton Village. And one day I heard some neighbors of mine complaining about the speed bumps, the new speed bumps on Garson. And they said, I won't even drive on Garson anymore. I can't stand those speed bumps. And I had to keep myself from laughing. That's the point. The point is to slow down and even deter automobile traffic so that cyclists are more comfortable on those streets.
They were telling you that they just wanted to fly.
Yeah, they just wanted to fly through residential neighborhoods, which is an issue that we've talked about many times on this show.
Jeremy, you want to add to that?
I've seen this in action. Until a couple of years ago, I lived on Meg Street, where it's part of a bike boulevard. The city had put in speed bumps, but they were interesting speed bumps because they left room on the side so cyclists didn't have to go over them. The cars did. I watched some guy in a very bright Lamborghini trying to navigate one of these speed bumps and just having a time of it. He looked like he was trying to get a Jeep up a mountain.
Well, listen, Jesse, you're not going to be surprised to hear that there are times where people think in their own best interests or their own sort of self-interest. I remember when we were talking about the proposal to fill the eastern third of the inner loop, which was very controversial. I mean, filling the inner loop's always been sort of controversial in that the people who use it like it. But somebody called in to say, how dare they do that? I use it every day and I'm the only one on it. And I'm going, well, isn't that good for you? Like that's pretty cool, man. Like you got your own inner loop. It wasn't actually making a great argument for the inner loop. But I understand the challenge of trying to sort of integrate infrastructure. So, Millie, what do you make as a town board member? you've got parents, you've got avid cyclists, some who want more infrastructure and separated bicycle infrastructure. What do you think?
So for all new builds, for all new construction, we have made it a huge priority to try to find ways to make it more pedestrian friendly, more bike friendly. So we are looking to do things like wider shoulders and adding in sidewalks in almost every new build, every new construction that's been going in. We are also looking to add more multimodal paths wherever possible. So we do have a pretty significant length of multimodal paths over in the RIT area, so that we can help students get back and forth to campus and to their residences.
And before I ask Jeremy and Christine, just from their cycling perspectives about separated infrastructure, just a note on that, Jesse. Is it just a practicality that says if we can have separate bike infrastructure, that's good and be good for everybody? Or is that a way of conceding that we are not existing correctly on the roads together? In other words, that we should be able to have roadways that accommodate cars, people on foot, bicycles, all of that, and not make people feel like they're going to get killed unless you separate the infrastructure. Is that giving up?
I don't think it's giving up. I mean, most people are in the interested but concerned category when it comes to scooting or riding their bike. They're not against the idea of riding their bike more, but they're definitely not comfortable riding in traffic, and they just want a little bit of a buffer to provide some safety and comfort when biking around. And that's what, Rochester and other cities are doing, is reconfiguring these public rights of way that belong to all people, that should be multimodal by essence, that used to be multimodal by essence before the 1950s came along. So complete streets is a very old idea. We used to coexist with buggies and horses and bicycles with really big wheels and all sorts of other multimodal options. We're going back to that idea as a society in large agreement that that's the way forward.
Do you bicycle would you bicycle in Henrietta, on West Henrietta Road?
For maybe tiny little snippets when I have no choice, but otherwise, if you use the Rock Easy Bike Map on our website, which is a custom map of the easier ways to bike around Monroe County, you'll see with those lilac lines all over Henrietta, huge swaths of it are actually pretty bikeable by using those residential side streets that parallel busy, intimidating arterials.
Yeah, Jeremy, your reporting indicates that we are used to traveling the arterials, but the bike boulevards are kind of a workaround in a sense, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's really before a lot of this bike infrastructure started developing. This is what a lot of people who would bike would do anyway. You would go down a road once, have a bad experience, and so you would find a way around that road. For me, Goodman Street in the city, tried that once, never again. But there's all sorts of great parallel streets that are easier to go down. In college, I once biked into Henrietta to pick my car up at the shop where it was getting, who knows what fixed. It was an old beat up car. And I made the mistake of trying to bike up Jefferson. Thank God there were sidewalks, is all I have to say, because that's what got me to the garage.
Now, hold on, Jesse. You're not supposed to bicycle on the sidewalk, are you?
It's only illegal in Scottsville and one other place.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can.
So it's not illegal.
Millie's looking at me, shaking your head. No, not in Henrietta.
Not in Henrietta.
Okay,
no.
all right. You got away with it.
It's legal in Henrietta.
It's legal in Henrietta.
I think I would have taken the ticket if I...
Yeah, I suspect it was the safety decision. Before we grab Matt and Irondequoit on the phone, Christine Merrill, just briefly, when you think about bicycle infrastructure and this call for actual separated lanes with physical barriers, is that something you want to see?
Yeah, well, you've got a whole range of people on bikes. You've got 7-year-olds riding to school. You've got people like my husband who are very comfortable bikers who are biking at very high speeds. And I think that there's room for all of them in this conversation. So my kids are riding on the sidewalk or on a bike boulevard. My husband's riding on the big streets. And the more we have separated infrastructure, the more that accommodates a lot more people. That makes that accessible to a lot more people. And if you think about who really benefits a lot from bike transportation, a lot of it is teenagers and young adults who are not yet economically able to provide for a car. And as cars are getting more expensive, that access to a personal vehicle is getting more and more out of reach. But I think that things that help teenagers be able to get to McDonald's for their job, and things that help college students to be able to get off campus so they can work and things like that, those are really beneficial to our community, and they need a little bit more protection than, the 40-year-old guy who's been biking his whole life and can swear at a truck that was past him better than any, we have some economic opportunity that, if we improve this infrastructure, could really benefit a lot of these people that are kind of at the beginning of their economic journey. So I feel like there is a lot of benefit to it if we can do it.
All right, let me grab Matt in Irondequoit on the phone. Hey, Matt, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm calling as a member of Walk Bike Irondequoit, which is a community advocacy group here. We started up around 2022, and at the time picked up a active transportation plan that the town had passed under then Supervisor Adam Bello in 2017. And one of the things we noted in the plan that seemed like low-hanging fruit was a bike boulevard. So we've been pushing for that in town for the last 4 years or so, and we've gotten a lot of sort of tacit and verbal support from elected officials, and we're glad for that. We just haven't been able to see it over the finish line just yet. So I wanted to congratulate Henrietta for completing their bike boulevard. And just wanted to make that note that there are, I think, other towns as well that are pushing for the establishment of bike boulevards. And no, it's not the end all be all of getting around town, but I think here in Irondequoit, the path we're pushing for would go east-west between Ridge Road and Titus, both of which are quite busy and scary to ride along. And so wending your way through the neighborhood streets, sort of between those two major thoroughfares feels a lot safer, even if it's not as, safe perhaps as a dedicated, protected bike lane might be.
Matt, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I suspect Millie appreciates the congratulations, although, again, Millie Sefranek from the Henrietta Town Board says this is ideally the start of something and not the end of something, right? Absolutely.
Yep. So the Merrill children came in yesterday, met with the engineering department to talk about new bike boulevards. We also received a number of letters from high school students who are advocating for more bike boulevards so that they can get back and forth to school as well. But ideally, what I would like to see is within the coming year, I would like to establish an advisory group for bike and street safety within Henrietta. We have a number of other advisory groups. We have things like a sustainability committee, and we have like planning board, conservation board, that type of thing. I would like to have a board that was able to look at some of these bike safety issues, at some of the new plans that are coming forward, and be able to advise on some of the highest impact, some of the low-hanging fruit. We need to hear from them. And there's also a push for looking at our active transportation plan. We have made updates to it over the years, but it is about 10 years old. So maybe in the course of the next couple of years, taking another look at that and seeing what updates need to happen.
By the way, Jeremy Moule, your report indicated that you'll also find a bike boulevard in Brighton. Is that right?
Correct. They do have one, I believe.
They've got one.
Two or three, I believe.
Okay.
Other towns that have them, Jesse, do you know?
I think it's just 3 at this point.
So it's Brighton, City of Rochester, and now Henrietta. And you heard Matt saying trying to get a Irondequoit over the finish line. So perhaps we'll see more. Well, let's take this only break. We're going to come right back. I've got more of your feedback. Got an interesting email from Vancouver, Canada to share an experience there. We're talking about bicycle safety and in particular, the effect of bicycle boulevards. My colleague Jeremy Moule recently reported on what Henrietta is doing with bicycle boulevards there. And Millie Sefranek is a member of the Henrietta Town Board and she is with us this hour. Christine Merrill is a bicycle safety advocate there. She is with us this hour. Jesse Pierce is with us, cycling manager of Reconnect Rochester, and we will come right back on Connections. This is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Maybe the most avid cyclist at WXXI is Bryan Agnello, my colleague who's with us. Are you the most avid cyclist in the building?
Yes, I am. All year round, winter, summer. And it took a long time to get there. I sold my daily driver, sold my car about 4 years ago. I do have a work truck that I use when I have to do big things, but practically 99% of my daily usage is a bicycle. In
99%. So
99%, yeah.
I don't. Our colleague from Classical 91.5, Mona Segatola-Salami, might give you a run for this on bicycle advocacy or avidness. But
Yeah, she would.
okay, so you're at the top of the list. So 99%. I mean, really year round.
Yes.
As a bicyclist. So what do you make of seeing more bicycle boulevards? Rochester has some. Henrietta now has 2. Brighton's got a couple. What do you make of that?
The bicycle boulevards are a great idea. I love the implementation. I love the layout. It's great not to have to ride on Lake Avenue. I mean, that's a huge plus. I mean, Lake Avenue is terrible. I love the infrastructure. I love what's going on. But the one thing that bothers me the most is the off-street cycle paths. The cycle paths, not to be concerned, not psychopath, but cycle paths. Yeah.
Okay.
Cycle tracks.
Cycle tracks.
Cycle tracks. Yeah.
To me, they kind of give a false narrative that bikes are only allowed on the sidewalk or off the road. That's what it seems like it kind of portrays to the motorist out there. They go, oh, look, the cyclist is off the road on the sidewalk. And it's like, I know what's going on here. I know that people feel safe when they're separated from traffic because traffic is dangerous. I've been hit. It's terrible. I never want to ever go through that again. But, you know, it seems like a big gap in education between motorists and cyclists and what's being done to fix that gap. And I know Reconnect has been doing a lot of work.
Yeah, I would honestly say that the bicycle community is divided about that subject. We wrote a blog, Reconnect Rochester did about a month ago about, some mild criticisms about the way that Rochester's raised cycle tracks next to the sidewalk have been implemented, the dangers therein. We'll have a future blog in the next couple weeks that'll say how it can be done rightly, the way that other cities do it.
I think I was comment number 1 on that.
It might be. Yeah. It might be. But the reality is that people in the interested but concerned crowd, they love those things. Mm-hmm. And Rochester and its plans and its aspirations with its active transportation plan knows that the bicycle infrastructure that it builds and will build in the future is not for those who are already comfortable riding. Mm-hmm. It's for those that would be comfortable were, some separateness made. So inexperienced cyclists, younger cyclists, older cyclists tend to love that infrastructure. Folks like you and I tend to avoid it because we're more comfortable sometimes riding in the road, depending on the context.
And I totally get that too. Like you don't want your 14-year-old riding a bike in the road. And I mean, this plays into something from earlier. It is against city code to ride on the sidewalks in the city proper.
No,
in the inner loop.
They have some leeway now that they updated it, but it's not outright illegal.
I mean,
no.
But if you're 14 years of age or younger, then
No, even if you're an adult.
I got yelled at by a RPD for being on the sidewalk on my
bike.
Sometimes
officers need to be updated on the law.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, see, that's why we're here. Henrietta has sparked this conversation with their bicycle boulevards. And just briefly before I get back to your email, can I ask Christine Merrill, you mentioned that you came from Maryland 3 years ago, right, Christine?
Yep.
And you did not, you briefly described it as kind of a nightmare. But why? How does it compare in terms of culture and infrastructure and bicycling?
Oh, that is so interesting. So Merrill, we were in the Washington, D.C. metro. We were inside the Beltway. And I think if any of you have been there, you know that there is always traffic. And so driving anywhere or biking anywhere or doing anything there was really kind of awful. at all times. I just remember after 3 o'clock, I just didn't leave my house because I couldn't get anywhere. And if I wanted to bike there, I could get there faster, but I would probably die because there were just so many cars, and it was tough. So Rochester is kind of the opposite. It doesn't have a lot of congestion, but that people fly through like we're on some sort of race course because there's not a lot of traffic. And so it's a little bit of the opposite problem. It's not that there are so many cars that are going to hit me. It's just that I don't know when one is going to come that isn't looking at all for me. And I had a 17-year-old daughter who was hit by a car on the way to school last year. She was she was okay. Her bike was completely destroyed, and it was a really nice guy from the next neighborhood over. He felt really awful about it. He'd just been turning left and he had not been looking for pedestrians or cyclists, and there, because these are very large arterial roads, it's not on people's mind, and so that is, I think, more of the challenge here is just the motorists that aren't looking for people, that aren't thinking that people are going to be out there. But I see bikes out there all the time. I was driving, what was that really nice first day of spring we had a couple of weeks ago where it was just beautiful weather finally for the first time. And I was driving to pick up my kid from middle school. The streets were full of people out biking and walking. And I turned the corner, I went towards the school where there's no more sidewalk, and the people were gone. As soon as the sidewalk and the infrastructure disappeared, the people disappeared too. And I just thought, oh, I wish the people on this side of town could be out enjoying this really beautiful evening the same way as the people up closer to the high school where they have the sidewalks are. And but it's tough. Henrietta started off as a very rural area. It's grown, and these streets were all laid before there were a lot of people there. And so it's a transitionary opportunity, but it does take a lot of time and a lot of money to be able to do that. So.
All right, some feedback from the audience. Travis in Rochester on the phone. Hey, Travis, go ahead.
Hey, Evan. So I just wanted to comment more about those elevated bike tracks, cycle tracks, regarding the comment about how they're made for people who don't feel completely comfortable biking. I just want to say that I think they provide a false sense of security because a lot of times cars pulling out from side streets pull all the way up to the road. They don't stop at the cycle track before and then pull up to the road. So multiple times I've been either almost T-boned or almost T-boned a car because people just blow right through those cycle tracks. So I'm a big proponent of the in-road bike lanes with bollards to separate you from traffic, but actually still being out in the road.
Travis, thank you. Bryan wants to jump in on this point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to add the rework on University Avenue, where the side path has the walk symbol and the bicycle symbol. I was riding down University last night and I noticed this, and I was counting the amount of blind spots that this track has and how out of view you are from cross traffic, driveways, side street, everything, going, oh man, I feel much safer here 3 feet away from 3-ton vehicles than I do over here where people aren't intuitively looking. So when you're using those side paths, you have to be really attentive to, no one stops at the stop line, as Travis just said, and you have to be more aware than being in traffic where people intuitively look for cyclists. So if you're going to use the side path, please just be very careful because no one is looking there for pedestrians or cyclists. Just be very careful.
You endorse that one, Jess Pierce?
It's one of the criticisms that we have in that blog article. I, for instance, was leading a huge ride, a light up the night ride southbound on the Union Street cycle track. 80-something participants behind me, and we were riding by Nerdvana and Adventure Place, and there was a motorist pulling out that they were going to pull right into us without even looking, and I halted and I yelled at the motorist and got them to stop. But you do need to have that awareness at all times, really, but especially on those cycle tracks and sidewalks.
All All right, in West Irondequoit, Earl writes in to say, Evan, I'm not familiar with bike boulevards. I have been an advocate of separated and dedicated lanes, and Matt in Irondequoit's comment about Irondequoit got me to thinking about which east-west streets would accommodate bike boulevards. I think a reasonable option would be to reconfigure streets as one way and use the extra space to accommodate dedicated, separated bike lanes. I also think that an intergovernmental commission with actual powers might be the way to overcome disparate regulations and bylaws. That's from Earl. Jeremy?
One thing with that, just every time I hear one-way street as a way of controlling traffic, one-way streets are a good way to speed traffic up. You're taking away you're giving people more space. You're taking away some of the conflict and sense that, there's people on the other side of the road. So they go pedal to the metal.
Okay, interesting. Millie, a couple things there. He's saying, how about a commission that has actual teeth to get some of this stuff done? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. One of the big things that I have with the New York State DOT is that active transportation planning has been around for a while, and it's something that towns and other municipalities are adopting. And it just seems to me that the New York State DOT has been a slow adopter of some of these same ways of thinking. They just need to change the way that they analyze traffic and the way that they think, and update their documentation and their training so that when they have people that are making these decisions, that they're taking active transportation into consideration.
Okay. And briefly, Jesse, this is someone in Irondequoit who's feeling like, he was not familiar with bike boulevards until recently, but one-way streets seems like an idea to create more space. I take Jeremy's point that might naturally lead to faster traffic. Is that a bicycling solution?
I've experienced that in Beechwood where, skinny residential streets have been made one way, and I've seen traffic speeds increase. On a residential street, when you have no choice but to negotiate with traffic coming in the other direction, it's counterintuitive, but that forces you to behave. And one-way streets can speed up that traffic.
Well, David is listening in Vancouver, Canada, and he says Vancouver's solution is mostly to make streets parallel to the major car routes. Those streets that are parallel to the major routes have been turned into bike routes. He says at the intersection of those bike routes with major roads, there are cyclist-controlled traffic lights. So cyclist-controlled traffic lights, and the roads that are parallel to the major arteries. But, is that kind of what you saw in Henrietta? With the major arteries, that's not where your bike boulevard is. Your boulevard is finding ways to kind of circumvent a little bit, right?
Yeah, it sounds like he's describing a bike boulevard.
That's same, Millie? You agree with that?
To a certain extent, it sounds like maybe Vancouver has taken it a step further than what we're able to take it. I would say that if there's a direct parallel, here, people would tend to speed down those and use those as cut-throughs. The bike boulevards that we implemented were not direct parallels. They were kind of a lot more curvier, and people would be less likely to utilize those.
Okay.
And that's where you get the speed bumps coming in from the side streets. And I know there's some bike boulevards that have the proper speed bumps that are segmented with the brakes in them. A lot of bike boulevards have the improper speed bumps installed. But how big of a push are you doing with Reconnect to make sure the correct speed bumps go in on those roads?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because as of this week, the city has a new webpage on its website about Bicycle Boulevards Phase 3, and it has an interactive map where you can make clicking and make comments about traffic calming measures that you would like to see on the Phase 3 boulevards, and there will be public meetings later this year about it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that'll be something that we can cover coming up here. And just briefly, guys, how do you all feel about cyclist-controlled traffic lights? I don't think Henrietta has quite that much.
I like them.
You like that?
I like
that idea?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I can think of the first place I'd put one.
Go ahead.
Oh, Avril and Clinton. Anybody who sat at that light on a bicycle.
Oh my gosh. Unless yeah.
If a car doesn't come along to save you, you have no choice but to blow the light
or get a steel bicycle.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Christine, you want to jump in on that too?
So the bike boulevard that we proposed yesterday goes from the Henrietta Library to Tinker Park. And as part of that, it would cross behind, if you're familiar with Henrietta, behind the library, behind the dome, and come into the neighborhood across the street. And there's no traffic light there at East Henrietta right now. And as we discussed, the state DOT owns East Henrietta Road. And so they're going to control whether we can have a traffic light there. If there's no traffic light and there is no way to cross that road there is no way any cyclist can use that bike boulevard. It is completely hinged upon the ability of us to have some sort of traffic control there to be able to cross. I don't think we want a full car traffic light. It's not a road that needs a whole traffic light, but if a pedestrian or cyclist could push a button and cross the road there, that would, that the whole success of the project hinges on that little spot right there. And so I think that the state and the county DOT really kind of need to be paying attention to the needs of the community and not just the needs of the commuters, and letting us be able to cross these roads. Otherwise, we're really isolated in our little subdivisions.
All right, back to your emails. This is from Alexis. She says, "Hi, Evan. Thank you for the great show today. My 5th grade son, Benjamin, rode his bike back and forth 3 miles each day to school every single day last year." And she sends a picture, says, "Here he is with a studded bike tires, ski goggles, mountain biking full face helmet, and my husband's pogies and his violin. The wind chill this day was -10. And she said he did it every day. She says, "Thanks for what the show does for the community." Appreciate that, Alexis. I'm curious to know where, what community you're in there, and if he had any issues. But send me a follow-up. I'd love to know. Great picture, by the way, and I love the setup here. That is one determined fifth grader. That's a great story. So thank you, Alexis. And let's get this one I'm going to send this one over to Millie. This is from Peter. It says, "So why does the excellent Lehigh Valley Trail North, which connects with Lehigh Valley Trail Park, end at Calkins Road? Is there any possibility of extending that trail to Jefferson Road?"
Well, for one thing, you could take the bike boulevard, which would connect from the end of the Lehigh Trail over to the Wedgwood Apartments, which are on East Henrietta Road. It would get you pretty close. It would be tough to go over the bridge on the expressway, but that would get you pretty close. I do believe that there are some other marked pathways as well for the Lehigh Valley Trail,
Yes.
but I would have to take a look.
There are, yeah.
All right, so as we get ready to wrap here on this particular program, Millie Sefranek, as a member of the Henrietta Town Board, in the next year, in the next 2 years, 3 years, I imagine what you're going to be looking at is, number one, are we seeing a decrease in any kind of collisions or concerns or incidents, and are we seeing an increase in bicyclists? Are those things you feel that you're going to be able to track, and is that what you're looking at in the next couple of years?
It's not something that we've implemented in terms of tracking, but that is definitely something that we would look to. I would say also looking to see how our young people feel about getting back and forth to their points of destination, whether it's the school or park, playground, the library, rec center. I want young people to feel comfortable and confident getting to where it is that they want to get to.
I think it's a great endorsement that someone new to this community has come in and felt like they've got a voice and that they can be heard by you and by people in government. And Christine, before we wrap here, just take 30 seconds and tell us what you want to see next from your town, because now you got everybody's ear and they're all listening. So go ahead.
Oh, one wish list. I think my one wish list would be a way to get from my house to the Erie Canal Trail. I would love to be able to cross Jefferson Road and get to the Erie Canal Trail.
Okay. Jeremy, you mentioned your hot spot that you're concerned about there.
Yeah.
Which is where again?
This is in the city. It's Averill and South Clinton.
Okay. Have you been over there, guys?
Millions of times. Yeah.
It's a signal problem over there.
It's a
It's
signal.
actually a fairly comfortable place to ride.
Okay. Brian, 20 seconds. What do you want to see next?
It's more cyclists getting out, enjoying the infrastructure, what we have here, and more cyclists out there. The more visibility that the community has, the more it will take on, hopefully, and catch on, and will become a bigger cyclist city.
We'll talk to you in the weeks to come about some other issues. But what do you want to leave people with today, Jesse?
Well, this year, Monroe County got federal funding for an implementation plan for its 2023 active transportation plan. Expect public meetings this August for how we can actually get a more bikeable Monroe County.
Now, you're not doing it on your own, but you're a force of nature in this field. Come back to us. Look forward to it. Jesse, thank you for being here as always.
Thank you.
Jesse Pierce is cycling manager for Reconnect Rochester. Brian, go back to work. Thanks for coming to Connections today. It's great seeing you in here. Jeremy Moule, same. Thank you for the great reporting here. We'll link to Jeremy's story in our show notes. Millie Sefranek, member of the Henrietta Town Board, thank you for making the time to come in.
Thank you.
And good luck to Christine Merrill, a bicycle safety advocate. Thanks for sharing your family story with us today, Christine.
Thanks. It was great to meet you.
And from all of us at Connections, thank you for finding us on these various platforms. Great to have you as always, and we will talk to you tomorrow on member-supported public media.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.